All right, guys, give me a second here. I want to check my audio. I also need to hold on. Let me check my audio. I think I left my mic in Pennsylvania because I've been looking for it like a madman and I can't find it. So yeah, hopefully I can figure something out. So let me just check my audio, and then I'm also going to tweet this out that I am live. Okay, it sounds. Whoa. Okay, it sounds. Okay. I don't. That was a weird echo. Anybody who's in, let me know how the audio is. Again, I think I lost my mic in Pennsylvania. Either that or I left it there. I can't find it anywhere. So I'm kind of just doing this solo, I guess, or kind of blind. Let me tweet this out, share it with everyone that I'm on. Okay. Sorry, guys. Give me just a quick second. I hate when I do this. I make a mistake and literally have to go back and fix it because I am just a normal human being that makes a lot of mistakes all the time. All right. Share this out with people. How's everyone's day going? Other than the whole Spider-Man, Sony, Marvel situation, how is everything else? I should say. I'm doing pretty well. Life is good. Can't find my mic, but other than that, I mean, everything else is smooth. I hate when it does that. Okay. Also, what movie are you guys most excited to see? For me, it's It Chapter 2 easily. I will have a couple reviews up within the next couple of days. I went and saw Ready or Not last night. Actually, I have a really funny story about what happened at the theater when I was watching it. It may be funny to you guys. It wasn't funny to me. And then also I went and saw The Farewell, which is a movie I've been wanting to see for a while, and it finally came to my theater. And so I went and saw it. So I will also talk about that. We're going to get real on this live stream. I'm going to tell you facts. I'm going to also give my opinion on the entire situation. So let me kind of go into the facts. I am going to go, oh, shoot. Why did I do that? All right. I had the Deadline article pulled up. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna have to open it up once again. So this is the Deadline article. Okay. So this is exactly what we know. This is facts. According to the reports, according to the report, the article, this is an actual fact. So this is not my bias or anything like that. So Sony Pictures spent much of yesterday trying to spin Deadline about the prospective loss of Kevin Feige from future Spider-Man films. First, the studio downplayed the idea he might be leaving. Then insiders pinned his exit on added responsibilities from the Fox acquisition of the X-Men franchise, though they declined to make a statement. All this was reflected as factors in Deadline's break of an important and widely regurgitated story. But sources maintain that Feige's exit was about money. It was about Disney seeking the 50-50 Ko-Fi stake as the price for Marvel and Feige's continued guiding hand that resulted in the delivery of Sony's biggest grossing film ever. Okay? So that's huge. I'll come back to that in a second. Sony declined to meet those terms. It was an aggressive stance by Disney, which already owns the merchandise on Spider-Man, and a tough nut for Sony to swallow, giving up half of its most valuable franchise. But these talks had been going on for some time. Had Sony agreed to Disney's ask, Marvel and Feige would not have withdrawn from the Spider-Man films, sources said. Sony issued a statement later in the evening, not denying anything Deadline revealed yesterday, but reiterating its stance that Feige was too busy, which seems like spin. And it definitely is spin. Deadline stands squarely behind its reporting. How important is Feige to the future of this franchise? We'll find out down the line. Sony is planning 2 more installments, though it is an open question whether those will include John Watts, director of the first 2 films, guided creatively by Feige. Watts isn't signed on for the next film and isn't a certainty to be back, as he is being heavily courted for other jobs. Could Sony find itself vying against Marvel for Watts' future service as a director? Here is Sony's late evening statement. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. So this is stuff you can find on Twitter, actually. And I don't know why. Hold on, guys. Sorry, I made a stupid mistake. Once again, this is what happens when you're aimlessly just scrambling to try to find stuff and you can't find anything. Okay, there we go. That's better. Sorry, I made a mistake and I exited out of something. Okay. Okay, so this was on Twitter. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed, but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as a lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. A Sony spokesperson said, "We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP they do not own. Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he has helped put us on, which we will continue." All right. So you might be asking, what does this all mean? Why is this important? Well, number one, a lot of people are blaming Sony. They're saying this is Sony's fault. Sony took Spider-Man back from the MCU, and that's false. That is false. Sony wanted to make this deal work out with Marvel. They were heavily in discussions, obviously, with Disney. The problem is Disney was wanting something that no studio would ever give up. Because you read it, they want 50-50 Ko-Fi stake in the franchise. What that means is they want 50-50 production expenses, which means Disney will pay for 50%, and Sony will pay for 50%, and Disney will also receive with the deal 50%, and Sony would get 50%. Now, what does that mean in terms of how is that a bad deal? Because it's made a lot of money. The franchise, obviously where Spider-Man is at, Spider-Man is very beloved, and many people, have been going out and seeing Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man Homecoming, and people love these movies. Well, it wouldn't be just about Spider-Man. You see, Disney, if it was just about Spider-Man, that's a fair deal. Disney deserves to get a little bit more. They deserve a little bit more of a reward for the success of Spider-Man. However, they wanted 50-50 in the entire Sony Spider-Man franchise. What does that mean? Not only would they would have rights to Spider-Man, 50% stake in Spider-Man. They'd have 50% stake in Venom, Morbius, and any other Spider-Man spin-off films that they make. And there is no way in absolute hell that anybody would ever make that agreement. That's a horrible agreement because Spider-Man is the number one franchise Sony has going for them. And there is no way they're going to let Marvel come in and co-produce 50%, pretty much produce 50% of this film, of all of these films, including Morbius and Venom, and then, or Venom 2, and then also they get 50% stake back in those films. That's not going to happen. No studio in their right mind would ever allow for another company to come in, try to take control, 50% control of their entire IP. That's just ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And so, to be honest with you, I understand Sony's side. And I understand Disney as well, that they wanted a little bit more, but that's way too aggressive. That's way too out there. And one of the big things that I've been hearing a lot is that maybe because of all the IP and because of all of the new characters that are going to have to be added into the MCU, maybe Kevin Feige, because he has so much on his plate, maybe Disney did that on purpose. They made that aggressive offer on purpose, unreal offer on purpose, so that way they could back out of the deal. That way they could back out of Spider-Man. And, you know, that makes a little bit of sense, but at the same time, both companies have been benefiting. Because think about it, Marvel, you can look, a lot of people don't realize this. Spider-Man Far From Home is a Sony movie. It is a Sony produced, Sony distributed film. Yes, it has MCU aspects and elements. Disney has some stake in it. 5% return. They don't have to finance the movie at all. This is the pre-existing deal that they had with Sony, the deal that, you know, we all loved and we all benefited from. Number one, they got 5% of box office take. First take, I should add, which is huge. Second, they got all merchandising rights, 100% merchandising rights, which means any Spider-Man toys, any Spider-Man shirts, any Spider-Man cups, any Spider-Man wallets, whatever, costumes, they make 100% of that money, which meant Sony was making $0, 0 cents on any merchandising whatsoever. That is huge, absolutely huge for Disney, because they're making so much money from merchandising alone. Kids buy the toys, kids dress up like Spider-Man, kids go out and buy shirts. You know, I have a Spider-Man shirt in there. You know, it's just, that is huge. That's, to me, that's almost a little unfair for Disney. However, you know, Disney's made a lot of money, and so, I mean, you know, it is a win-loss situation for Sony, but also at the same time, they're making films that people adore, and they're also, you know, Spider-Man Far From Home has become their number one film ever, highest grossing film ever as a studio. So that was the deal. Now, Sony understood that Disney wanted, rightfully so, Disney wanted more stake. They wanted more money. And so 5% for Disney off of that pre-existing deal, they wanted, you know, 10 times as much, which is like, that is not going to happen. But they wanted 10 times as much, not for just Spider-Man, but for Venom, for Morbius, for all of these characters that Sony is building in their own respective Spider-Verse franchise. And that's just not going to happen. That's so unrealistic. And so a lot of people are saying boycott Sony. It's Sony's fault. It's not Sony's fault. It's Disney. Disney has completely derailed this relationship with Sony. Literally, it's almost like this. Imagine you go and you go to McDonald's, okay? And you go inside of McDonald's and you want, I don't know, you want things that they don't have on the menu. Okay, so for example, you go to McDonald's the first time and you're like, oh, I really like a Big Mac. So they give you a Big Mac. Okay, I like this. I benefited from this. It felt good. It tasted good. All right, I'm gonna go into McDonald's again. Second time you go to McDonald's, you say, this time I want 2 Big Macs. Okay, boom, you can have 2 Big Macs. Okay, and so you're sitting there eating and you're like, okay, I feel good. I might feel a little stuffed, but I feel good. Then the third time you walk into McDonald's, establishing a relationship, you know exactly what you can ask for and what you can't ask for. You go up to the cashier and you say, hi, I would like lobster. Okay, give me lobster. And why would they ever give you lobster? That is not going to happen. And so that is what Disney did. They spat on the face of Sony. They spat right in the face. Sony wanted this deal. They wanted this deal to happen. There is so many reports going out there that Sony was like, you know what? Maybe we could do 70-30. We get 70%, you get 30% of the production costs, and also you get 30% of the take. But Disney did not want that. 50-50, not for Spider-Man, not just for Spider-Man, okay? But for Venom 2, Morbius, whenever they make Black Cat and whatever their names is, I don't even know. I'm not that familiar with those characters. But like whenever they make all of these other Spider-Verse films, Marvel wants 50% of that. And that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. No company in their right mind would accept that deal. I wouldn't accept that deal. If I was selling a product and a company came to me and said, hey, look, I want 50% of your IP, of your product, and I want it now, and that's the only way we're going to work out a deal, I'd say, hell no. There is no way I'm giving you that deal. Absolutely zero way that deal is going to take place. And so for me, for all the people that are ranting, boycott Sony, boycott Sony, boycott Sony, it is not Sony's fault. It is not their fault. It's Disney's fault. And we should have seen this coming a mile away because Disney has been getting greedier and greedier and greedier. I love Disney. I'm unapologetic about the fact that I am a hardcore Disney fan. Any Disney movie, I am there day one. But there's got to be some give and take here. This is something that people need to understand, is that Disney is not a perfect company. They're very greedy. They're in the business of making money. This is show business, not show friends. And that is why, to me, Disney asked for something that was so unreasonable, something that was never going to fly with anybody, that it's disrespect to Sony. And Sony was the bigger man, coming out, tweeting about how gracious they are for Kevin Feige and his direction and his guidance, and making these Spider-Man films to be something so amazing and something that really like audiences love and adore. Like, we love Spider-Man. To me, I think that it's big on their part, and it shows their cards. It shows that they truly are a gracious company. They could have come out and they could have bashed Disney, but Sony is still in the belief that, and they still hope that they can find some common ground between them and Disney. And I believe the more and more I've kind of let this sit with me. Last night, I was very upset, but I didn't really understand the perplexities of why this happened. And I was blaming, again, I'm also to blame. I was blaming Sony. And come to find out, looking more into it, that it's really a Disney thing. And Disney is the reason why these discussions got derailed. And right now, Spider-Man is a free agent. Well, not really. He's Sony's, but he's the reason why Spider-Man is pretty much homeless at this point. And so, yeah, I've let it sit a little bit. And to be honest, I do think that they'll come together. I think they'll come together in agreement. And maybe this is all some type of spin. Maybe they already have a deal in place. And at D23, they're going to get everyone excited by saying, Spider-Man is coming back and we're making like 8 films. But I don't know. Honestly, Disney has done some things in the past couple of years that's really shown their cards. And I know that they've received a lot of backlash, and that backlash has come to be in the benefit of us, the fans. For example, the James Gunn situation. Maybe this is another one of those situations. I think the two companies will still have time to come into agreement with one another, and we'll see what happens. But honestly, I don't think this is the end of the world for Spider-Man. I don't think this is the end of the world for the MCU. And even if, say, the next Spider-Man film is not under the MCU banner, it doesn't mean that future installments won't be. And Sony's made some really good Spider-Man films. My favorite Spider-Man film and the best Spider-Man film ever made was made by Sony, not by Marvel, but made by Sony, and that's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And then the second best is Spider-Man 2. So, again, another Sony film. So we can poo-poo on Sony all we want, but I think Kevin Feige has really made an impact on the Spider-Man character and the franchise moving forward that I think Sony will carry that legacy. And it also makes sense, too, because the Avengers are done. I mean, they don't necessarily need to have Spider-Man come back anytime soon for any films because the slate that the MCU has right now is absolutely bloated. And so it makes a little bit of sense, too, on maybe why Kevin Feige and maybe Disney also want to step away a little bit from Spider-Man because they already have so many other new IPs coming in to the franchise that it would just kind of be hard to tackle all of those things on top of adding one or two more Spider-Man films and trying to incorporate Spider-Man somehow into the MCU at the same time, kind of where we are right now in the existing timeline. So those are my thoughts on the matter. And again, I think that something will be worked out, and I don't think that this is the end of the world. I think we're all a little upset. I'm still a little bit bummed about it, but at the same time, you know, I want this relationship to work. I want them to come back together in agreement. I love the solo individual Spider-Man films, but I also love the MCU Spider-Man films, and I would love to see them work something out and be able to get Spider-Man films with Marvel characters that we love, and then also, you know, standalone Venom films and Morbius and all this stuff. So those are just my thoughts quickly on this whole Spider-Man issue and kind of what's been going on with the Disney and Sony deal with Spider-Man, because it has been expired. And so we'll see. This could just be public spin, and we could all just they could be trolling us hardcore. So we'll just have to wait and see. And how's it going, Mike's Bedtime Reviews? It's good to see you in the chat, my friend. What do you think about all this stuff going on? Do you think it's crazy? Do you kind of think in the same belief as me, or do you disagree? Let me know, man. But yeah, guys, that's really my 2 cents. Other than that, I didn't really want to make this a really long live stream. And it kind of came out at a random time. I was planning on doing it. I don't know. I had different times in my head. I was thinking about doing it earlier, but then I kind of got busy doing other stuff. And then I planned on doing it at around 4 o'clock, but I couldn't for the life of me find my freaking microphone. I don't know where it is. And I'm going to have to keep looking around my apartment, and maybe I'll find it sometime soon. But I will have some new reviews up. I went and saw Ready or Not last night. That will be up hopefully tonight. I am having friends over at 6. My wife and I are having a couple of our friends over. We're going to watch Avengers Endgame again. So that'll be, 3 hours of goodness. So I'm hoping – I haven't even shot my review for Ready or Not yet. And then I also am going to be doing another review, which will be up probably tomorrow, either tomorrow or the next day, and that is on the movie The Farewell, which is a movie that I've wanted to see for so long, and finally my theater has it. It finally has it, and I was able to see it. And I don't want to give anything away because I don't want to spoil anything for how I'm going to feel on both those movies for the reviews. I do have a funny story about Ready or Not, something that happened during the movie that to you might be funny, but to me kind of sucked. And I'll let you guys know what that is about. Mike's Bedtime Review says, I think that this might hurt the MCU. Spider-Man being a free agent is just baffling to me. I went to see Ready or Not last night too. That's awesome, man. Yeah, how'd you like it? I spoiler alert, I really liked it. I thought it was a really solid film. It was fun. It was very entertaining. I think that this might hurt the MCU. Honestly, I don't know if I agree with you on that, Mike. And part of the reason why I don't know if I agree with you on the fact that this might hurt the MCU is the MCU, they have such a heavy slate as it is, and whether we're talking Thor: Love and Thunder, or we're talking about Doctor Strange 2, or we're talking about the Eternals or Blade. I mean, and all the Disney Plus stuff. I mean, they have a lot. They have a lot going on, and so no matter what, I mean, like I said, everyone will look at this right now and blame Sony. They won't even blame Disney, and because there's so many Disney like diehard fans that are so brainwashed, and they don't understand that Disney makes mistakes. They think Disney is perfect. Sorry, the colors keep changing on my TV. I have Netflix up, and it's just kind of doing the random. I don't even know where my remote is, guys. I'm losing everything. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if this necessarily is going to hurt Disney or the MCU, because people are still going to go see the MCU films. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I do think that they'll reach an agreement. I think that this will kind of be water under the bridge, and this will be something probably, even if say they don't reach an agreement a month from now, people won't be talking about this. I don't think so. We'll just have to wait and see. And you might be right. I don't think it will hurt Disney or Marvel in any way. I think Spider-Man is a character that people love, and people are still going to go watch the Sony Spider-Man films. I mean, don't lie to yourself and say you're not going to. You're still going to go watch Spider-Man because you love Spider-Man. And Sony's made some amazing Spider-Man films, so we'll just have to wait and see. I thought it was great. Yeah, it was really entertaining. Ready or Not was it was a lot of fun, to be honest. I thought it knew what it was. It was a little over the top at times, where it just kind of felt a little cartoonish in certain aspects of the film. But it was a great movie. I'd give it 4.5 out of 5, or probably like an 8.9 out of 10, 8.8 out of 10. I really enjoyed the film. It's not top 10 film actually, I think it is in my top 10. It might be number 10. It's not going to be top 10 film at the end of the year. It's not best film of the year or anything like that. It's not cinematic masterpiece, but it knows what it is, and it's a lot of fun. And Samara Weaving is great. I am, because I love talking movies. I am, because I love talk. I don't get, but yeah, Spider-Man I would see regardless. Oh, okay. I am. So you're saying that you will go see it because you love talking movies? Yeah. I love Spider-Man. I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Like I love all three of those movies. Amazing Spider-Man. I love Amazing Spider-Man 2. Pretty garbage. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, the best Spider-Man movie. It was made by Sony. Sony's made some amazing Spider-Man movies. That's kind of funny what I did there. And so we'll see what happens. The worst is probably The Kitchen. You're talking about like this year. I have not seen The Kitchen. I wanted to see it, and then all the reviews came out, and I was like, never mind. I'm not going to waste my time watching that piece of garbage. I'll probably still watch it. I don't know. I don't know when. Maybe I won't. I don't know. The worst film, though, it's definitely not The Kitchen. There's this movie, Mike, called LaQuisha. Okay? This is the worst movie I've ever seen probably in my life. That is the worst movie of the year. There's nothing that will beat it. Because LaQuisha was directed by this dude who doesn't know anything about movies. And yeah. But anyway, LMAO, it's so boring. Yeah, that's I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, but anyway, Spider-Man, guys. Spider-Man is not dead. He's truly sleeping. And like I said, I believe something's going to happen. I do believe that they will come to an agreement. They have to. I think this is bad press for both of them. More Disney than Sony, because Sony is very classy about it. It's very bad press for Disney, and they might not have even wanted this to get out there. This it seems like it's something that kind of leaked, and yeah, I think now Disney, to try to save face, they're probably going to try to work something out and be more realistic. And again, maybe from what I've heard from other people is maybe Disney didn't want to bring Spider-Man back into the MCU, and maybe they just use this outrageous offer to to basically say, hey, look, we don't care about having Spider-Man back. We don't want him back. And maybe that was the way to get out of it, knowing that Sony would never take that deal, because Disney had to have known that that deal was ridiculous, that it was so outlandish and out there. They knew that. They're smart. I mean, the people that work for them, the finance people that work for them, Bob Iger, they're not stupid. They're such a good constructed company because of the decisions that they make, and because they're so smart and they understand the entertainment industry and understand kind of its value. There's no way that they threw out that offer thinking Sony's going to take that deal. There's no way. Absolutely zero way. I think they definitely knew that they were going to, if they made this offer, that Sony was going to reject it and it would derail talk. So we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, this could all blow up, in a week. It could all blow up in a month, blow over in a month. We'll see. I don't think Spider-Man will ever die, and the MCU fans might roll their eyes at this. Yeah, but MCU fans, there's I don't know, I can't say this word. Unapologetic MCU fans that literally they think MCU is the most perfect thing in the world. They've never made a bad movie, even though I would say Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2, even this year's Captain Marvel wasn't amazing. But there's those people that will literally support the MCU no matter what. They are diehard MCU Disney fans. And so people are still going to, some MCU fans, the ones who understand what the truth is between these two companies and between this deal and the breakdown of it, they'll roll their eyes at Disney. And it's not Marvel, it's Disney. Disney ultimately makes the deals, not Marvel. Marvel just is a branch of Disney that makes movies. Disney's the one that actually makes the deals with Sony and with all these other studios to bring in IP. So this is, I think that it's going to be something where we see, MCU diehard fans are going to defend Disney every step of the way and say, no, it's perfect. It's not their fault. Sony just wanted to take Spider-Man back because they're greedy. It's like, no, Disney is greedy, and Sony wanted to work out this deal. So we'll have to wait and see. Chewbecca, what is up? How are you? It's been so long since I've seen you in a chat. Man, it's been since Game of Thrones that we've had consistent chats, and I know that I need to start doing consistent chats more. Chewbecca says, I was trying to remember your channel's name the other day, and then this just popped up. Haha, haven't seen you since Game of Thrones, but I'm so annoyed with Sony and Disney. Yeah, Chewbecca, I'm annoyed too, and you can kind of go back to the beginning of this video. I explain exactly the truth, what actually happened between Sony and Disney, and I might explain it a little bit again, kind of go into it, but you can also read an article on Deadline. It's right up, if you go to deadline.com, the entertainment site, it's right as one of the top trending things. It's called Disney's Sony Standoff Ends Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige's Involvement in Spider-Man, where I read a little bit of that report and kind of break down the reason why this happened. So it's annoying. And I do think that these two sides will come together. That's my ultimate conclusion. I think this press is not looking good for Disney. And I guess even Sony, because people are mad at Sony for some reason, even though they didn't do anything. They were, they have every right to keep their IP because it's their IP. And like I explained it, look, Disney wanted something so outlandish, so out there that they knew Sony was not going to accept the deal. A lot of people are reading in on this, that Disney wanted 50-50 and Sony didn't want to do that, even though Disney makes all the movies and stuff. That is not true. Sony finances in the pre-existing deal, the one that just expired, Sony finances all of it. All of it. Disney, or I'm sorry, 95% of it. 95%, not 100, 95% of it. Disney gets a 5% box office take. That means 5% of what that movie earns, they get. That's free money for Disney. Free money. They just, boom, free money. Slap their name on it, boom. Put it in the theaters, they get 5% of it. Amazing. That's amazing. I would do that in a heartbeat. Heck, I would do that if someone was making a film that only made $10,000. I'd do it. Or $1,000 or $100. Like, come on, that's free money. Not only that, then Disney gets all the merchandising rights from the pre-existing deal, which means any shirt, any costume, anything that you buy that is Spider-Man based, a cup, whatever, a toy, probably not the Sony Spider-Man game, but anything that deals with Spider-Man, MCU Spider-Man, Disney gets 100% of that money. 100%. Sony doesn't receive a single dollar, a single penny from their own character and the own merchandising for their own freaking movie, okay? That's an amazing deal. So Disney wanted to up a little bit in their price, which is reasonable. It's reasonable. Spider-Man Far From Home is the #1 highest grossing Sony film ever. And you got to say a lot of it is because of the MCU and the impact Spider-Man has within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay? Now, imagine if you're Sony. You go into these discussions, you know Disney's going to ask for a little bit more. This means that production, they want to pay, they come to you and they ask, okay, this is our new deal. This is the only way we're going to accept having Spider-Man into the MCU. Imagine you're Sony, okay? Just imagine this for a second. Disney says 50%. We want to pay 50% of production fees, which means that they pretty much have control over Spider-Man. 50% of box office take. They still get the 100% of merchandising. But then everyone is missing the major point. 50% of all Spider-Man franchise characters. That doesn't just mean Spider-Man. That means Venom 2, the movie that's going to be directed by Andy Serkis, coming out probably 2021. Not Sony. Disney wants 50% of that movie's box office take. They want the production rights of Venom 2, Morbius with Jared Leto. They want 50% of that. They want 50% of all these other movies that they're going to make in Sony's own franchise, their own Spider-Man verse, the Spider-Man universe that they've created outside of Spider-Man. That's ridiculous. That is an offer no studio would be stupid enough to take that. Oh my gosh. Or no smart studio would take that deal. That would be ridiculous, okay? That would be idiocy for one company to go out and say, "Oh, you want 50% of my IP, my entire franchise, my #1 highest grossing franchise?" Okay. No. It doesn't work like that. I wouldn't do that. If Disney came up to me and said, "Oh, we want to do this," I would say, "Hell no, I'm not doing that." And you do that. There's no way that anybody in their right mind would do that. And that's why a lot of reports are coming out. A lot of people are saying, a lot of executives saying no studio would ever agree to those terms. And Disney knew that. That's just ridiculous. I can understand if it's 50% of Spider-Man, just Spider-Man. I can understand that. I can get behind that. But when you look at the inner workings, they want 50% of all Spider-Man properties, which includes Venom, Morbius, animated Spider-Man films, anything that Sony makes that even has any hint of MCU or any Marvel character in it. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. All right, I want to see your guys'. Holy cow, you guys have been putting a lot. Disney is getting really greedy. How much more money do they want? That's the thing. The thing that everyone needs to remember, though, this is show business. It's not show friends. It's show business. And this entertainment, movies, the reason why they're made is because studios want this. They want money. even those prestigious films, people need to get paid. Okay, people need to receive money from the product that they helped create. So that's the thing, is it is show business. I get that Disney's in the business of making money, but when you try to do this, that's ridiculous. Nice beard, haha. I'll check out Deadline. Awesome, Chewbacca. Yeah, thanks for the comments on my beard. I like it. My wife doesn't really like it, but whatever. But it seems like Disney is playing games. Yeah, it's almost like Disney. I don't know. Disney thinks that everyone's going to bow down to their will, to what Disney wants, and that's not going to work. Even though Disney's making a buttload of money, continually making dollars and dollars every single day. Even as I talk right now, they're making money. No one in their right mind is going to give Disney 50% of their franchise. That's not going to happen, especially their most successful franchise. And Venom just made over $800 million last year at the box office. I mean, I thought the movie was okay. It was fun. It wasn't amazing or anything, but maybe not 800. I didn't think it was going to make $800 million, but that's ridiculous. And for Marvel to say, "Oh, we want 400 million of that," that's stupid. They're playing to get more money. The cash grab Lion King made me have second thoughts about Disney. Look, I don't want to get into Lion King discussion or like remakes in general. That's Disney's appropriate IP. They own the rights to Lion King. They can make 50 movies for all I care. People are still going to go see it. I mean, I wouldn't say. I mean, the thing is the cash grab. But isn't that what movies are about though? Like I just said, movies are made to make cheddar. And so really you could say every movie's a cash grab. Every movie's a cash grab. Spider-Man Far From Home is a cash grab. So I don't like the cash grab statement. I just think that that's invalid because every movie is made with the intent of making money, which means every movie's a cash grab. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's my favorite film of the year, but that movie's a cash grab. I mean, every movie is. It's always a cash grab with them, at least in recent years. Again, cash grab, all movies are in the business of making money. I think Disney's just getting greedy. I wouldn't say cash grab. I would say Disney is trying to grab studios by the balls and make them, do what they want. And studios aren't going to do that. They're not going to bend over backwards, especially for Disney. Remaking classic movies, they ought to remake movies that could be better. Again, with the remake stuff, I don't want to really kind of get into that, dissect it a little. This is more for like Spider-Man and talking about the deal between Sony and Disney and Spider-Man. Remake whatever you want. That's my thought on it because we still have the original and that will never change. And maybe the remake will improve upon certain things, but if it doesn't, then we still have the original. 50%? No. Yeah, exactly. There's no way, because it's not 50%. Everyone thinks it's 50% of Spider-Man. It's not that. And then that's why they say Sony's greedy. It's not that. It's they want 50% of everything. Venom, Morbius, all this stuff. And Sony, who in their right mind would accept that deal? No one would. And if they did, I guarantee you, if anybody made that deal, the next day they'd be fired. That executive is gone. There's no way that a studio would allow that to happen, or anybody to make that decision. That's ridiculous. That's insane. Yeah, money hungry. You could say money hungry. That's a little bit better. That's absolutely dumb. It is dumb, and it's dumb, and that's why I think maybe, again, like I said, maybe Disney didn't have the intent of making more Spider-Man films. Maybe they were just done with Spider-Man, and that's why they gave him this outlandish offer. Because it's like Disney has a good partnership with Sony, and so they're like, how can we get out of making more Spider-Man films? Let's just give them an offer that we know they'll refuse, and that will literally gain zero traction. So. And from what I have also been hearing, that Sony was willing to obviously not do 50-50, but Sony was willing to do like 70-30 and try to work some things out with that. And Disney ultimately said no. So I really think Disney didn't have the intent on, bringing Spider-Man back into the MCU. I think they just kind of gave this outlandish offer, and they knew going in that Sony wasn't going to accept this deal, and maybe it's just because of all the new IPs and the fact that Kevin Feige is going to be really busy, because they're going to get to a certain point where they're going to have to make 4 or 5 films a year. For fans, that's awesome. I'm down for that. I love the MCU, but that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of cargo. It really is. That's a huge weight on Kevin Feige's shoulders. And I think Sony has made some amazing Spider-Man films. I mean, their 3 best films, I've already said what they are. The 3 best films, in my opinion, in the Spider-Man franchise have all been made by Sony. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man 2, and the original Spider-Man. Those are, in my opinion, the 3 best Spider-Man films, and they're all made by Sony. So technically, the MCU, Spider-Man doesn't need the MCU. He really doesn't. It's awesome though, and you know what? We've gotten 5 movies with Spider-Man in them from the MCU: Avengers: Infinity War, Avengers: Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and Captain America: Civil War. And you know what? If that's the end of Spider-Man in the MCU, what a ride it's been! What an amazing journey it's been having Spider-Man in the MCU. That's why I think they're playing games. Seems like they are business first. That's the thing. Again, it's show business. It's not show friends, okay? It's everyone is in business, in any business, not just movies, but to make money. And you got to remember, the movie business it's a business, and people are there to make money. A film that people love, for example, like Nice Guys or something like that, a movie that a lot of people herald as a really good film. The movie didn't make a lot of money, and so they're not going to make a second film. It's sad. It's unfortunate that happens to really good movies, but at the end of the day, again, it is a business, and the studios want to be paid, because if you put money into something, you expect to get money back. I hope Disney gets their head out of their A's and decides to make a viable deal, because honestly, if we lose Spider-Man from the MCU, it changes a lot. I don't know. I don't know if I technically agree with that. I do think that they do need to come to a decision. They need to come to an agreement, because it's better for everybody. It's better for Sony, because Sony makes great Spider-Man films with Marvel and with the guidance of Kevin Feige, because they haven't had their movies make this much money. Spider-Man Far From Home has made over $1 billion. That's never happened for Sony with their Spider-Man films. But it's not like Sony also hasn't made money with their Spider-Man films. Like, they've made a lot of money with their other Spider-Man films. And then you have Disney. They can have the character Spider-Man in the MCU. That's huge for Disney. And then it's also good for us fans, because we get to eat it up and have our cake and eat it too. That's what I like to say. Have our cake and eat it too. And that's really what they should do, Chewbacca. So I agree that they should honestly come up and make a deal. But I don't think that it's necessarily changes a lot from the MCU, because I still think with all the new IP that is coming in to the franchise, I think everything is already a little bloated. And so if Spider-Man isn't a part of the MCU, it's kind of like, where is his direction anyway in the next few years? So we'll have to wait and see, Chewbacca, on that, on your point. I agree. I think the MCU without Spider-Man is like the MCU without Hulk. Removing popular characters changes everything. I mean, that's, I would say that's an opinion. I think it's tough, because the MCU has a lot of characters. They have a lot of characters in their storehouse that we haven't even seen yet. We have Eternals coming out. We have, obviously there's already been announcements of Blade and of all these other, IPs. And so there's a lot of characters there to play with. And I think we've had a lot of Spider-Man films. Like I said, if this is the end of the Spider-Man MCU era, even though I don't think it will be, I think that they will still come to an agreement. If it is the end, what an era it's been. Like, what a journey, man. It's been a great time seeing Spider-Man in the MCU. It's been fun. It really has. After Spider-Verse, don't you think Sony can pull off a great Spider-Man movie? Yes, Jose. Yes. I was just talking about that. To me, the 3 best Spider-Man movies have all been produced, distributed, and solely made by Sony. Those movies, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man film. Spider-Man 2, amazing. And then Sam Raimi's original Spider-Man. In my opinion, those are the three best Spider-Man films. And all three of those movies have been solely produced, solely distributed, and solely marketed and solely made by Sony. So all this crap about how Sony's going to make a terrible Spider-Man film, blah, blah, blah. They've made some amazing Spider-Man films. Their last Spider-Man film, which was Into the Spider-Verse, won the Oscar for Best Animated Movie. And it should have won the Oscar for Best Picture, in my opinion. It was the best movie last year. So to me, have faith. Sony is going to do something amazing, whether Spider-Man is in the MCU or not. I fully believe that Sony can do a lot of amazing things because they're a great studio. And they've had their crap shoots for sure. They've had, their stinkers. They had Spider-Man 3, which I love Spider-Man 3, and I'm unapologetic about that. I love Spider-Man 3. And then also they've had Amazing Spider-Man 2, which, not so good. Has some fun, but not that good. But those are two movies. I mean, Marvel has had stinkers as well. Thor 2, anybody remember Thor: The Dark World? That movie was not very good. How about Iron Man 2? You guys remember Iron Man 2? Not very good. What about just this year, Captain Marvel? It was okay. A lot of people liked it, but not that amazing. So, and I thought Spider-Man Homecoming was good. I think Spider-Man Far From Home is superior. But everyone thinks that Sony sucks. I don't know why. Sony's a great company. They make amazing movies. They've had a couple stinkers, but so hasn't everyone. Every company has stinkers. And Disney. How about Disney? Nutcracker in the Four Realms. Terrible. Wrinkle in Time. Horrible. So Disney has their bad moments too. Every studio does. I heard they may add Holland into their new Venom coming out. See, that's another thing too. Is like one thing that we can look forward to. Like I said, I want Disney and Sony to come back together because it's a beautiful partnership. I think the stories that they've been able to tell within the MCU with Spider-Man have been grand scale, and they've been fun. And it's been really fun to see these characters that we could only imagine in comic books interacting on the big screen, whether that be Spider-Man and Iron Man, Spider-Man and Hulk, whatever, Spider-Man, Captain America. That's fun. It's fun to see those characters interact with one another. However, if there is one thing to hold on to that, people could be looking forward to if they don't work this deal out, Spider-Man in a Venom movie, that could be pretty awesome. And we'll have to wait and see. Jose, I think it's a little too early for them to even talk about Tom Holland in the new Venom movie. And I know that the deal prior between Sony and Disney, they weren't even allowed, Tom Holland could not be in any Venom movies or anything like that, or any other Spider-Man films. No live action Spider-Man could be in any other films other than the Spider-Man from the MCU. And that was because they, obviously they don't want the audiences to kind of be confused about where does this Spider-Man fit in and blah, blah, blah. So I know that pre-existing to what we know now, they couldn't have any trace of having Spider-Man in Venom. So I think it's a little too early. It's a little too pre-adolescent to start talking about Spider-Man in a Venom movie. But hey, that could be a thing. And you know for sure that if Spider-Man does not come back in the MCU, we will see him in Venom 2. I do believe that. Captain Marvel was average at best. Yeah, it was. Spider-Man and Venom in a movie, that's not Spider-Man 3. Sold. I will say this. I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man 3, and I don't care what anybody else thinks. I know it's not a good movie, okay? It's not a good movie, but I have fun with it. And it's one of those movies that when I was a kid, I absolutely loved it. And I knew it was a bad movie. When I was a kid, I knew it was a bad movie, but I knew it was a lot of fun. And so to me, it's kind of like, it almost feels like you're watching a spoof Spider-Man movie at times. And I think that's a lot of fun. What if Disney just tried to buy all the Marvel characters? Well, see, here's the thing, Squint Tripod. They can't. They could go out there and make an offer, but from my understanding is, back in the 90s, the reason why the IP is so different, back in, I think it was 99, Marvel Comics was actually, it was going under, and it was facing bankruptcy. And so they sold off IP rights for film and for television to other studios. Spider-Man, Venom, all those characters went to Sony, and then Fantastic Four, X-Men, Daredevil, and all those guys, Blade included, went to Fox. So from my knowledge, Squint, that's a good idea, and I'm sure that everyone has talked about that. I'm not talking about Disney, but like everyone I know has been like, well, why doesn't Disney just buy the rights? It's not that easy. They just can't go out and buy the Marvel characters because they don't own the IP rights to distribute them for film and television. And because Spider-Man is the biggest franchise Sony has, they're not going to fold and sell Spider-Man to Disney. That's just not going to happen. It doesn't work that way. There is interesting copyright laws and things like that, which would permit Disney to buy back Spider-Man, and also would, like, I don't necessarily know the existing deal right now between Sony and the Marvel Comics and their rights that they own for Spider-Man. All I know is that Sony would never sell their biggest franchise. It's just not going to happen, and you can't expect them to do that. Eric Foreman was a great villain. I love that 70s show, Jose. How'd you know I've been watching that? I've been watching that. And you know what? I think about that every time I watch that 70s show. I'm not even kidding. I think about Eric Foreman as Venom. From Sony. Again, Squint, I just kind of explained it. And I get what you're saying. Eric should make a cameo in Venom 2. That'd be funny. That would be really funny. I'd be for that. But he should make a cameo as Eric Foreman. Not as Tobey Maguire, or not Tobey Maguire. Topher Grace, not as Eddie Brock, but as Eric Foreman, because that would be amazing. I'm sold. Eric Foreman's the villain, and Venom 2. I got my tickets. I'm seeing that movie like 10 times in theaters. I don't care. That sounds amazing. But is that going to happen? No. No, it's not going to happen. Out of a 0 to 100 chance, I'm going to say 0.0001% chance that happens, which it's not going to happen. But anyway, guys, these are kind of my thoughts on the entire Sony Disney situation. What do you guys think below? Do you think that they're going to come together in agreement and work something out? I think that they will. I think that we haven't heard the last of this story. And honestly, I think that this is going to be an interesting time for, I think, Disney, especially with the D23 Expo coming out. This could just be a thing where, Bob Iger comes out or Kevin Feige comes out on the stage and they're like, here we are. Welcome to D23. This is our Marvel Expo. And, here is my good friend from Sony, so-and-so. And I can't even remember. Tom Rothman. I think his name's Tom Rothman. Tom or Tim Rothman. Here's my buddy Tom Rothman. And we're going to make 8 more Spider-Man films. I can totally see that happening. So D23 is coming up very soon. So we'll kind of wait. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of talk there about the situation. Can imagine Eric and Donna reacting to Venom fighting some monster in New York. Yeah, I don't think so. Sony has got nothing to lose, while Disney could lose a lot. Sony doesn't need to offer them more money if they don't want to. Well, Sony doesn't need to offer them more money if they don't. It's not so. It's. I think you're thinking the other way around, Jose. Disney is the one who has the offer. Sony owns the rights. So, and they've already had a deal. And you can go back in the video. I explained the situation, where it's not necessarily about it is money, but it's not what you think. It's not about Sony holding the cards and taking Spider-Man out of the MCU, but it's Disney's absolute nonsensical request, which I think is absolutely stupid. The request that Disney makes is, you meant accept. Okay, I get what you're saying. So it's no studio in their right mind would ever accept the offer that Disney made to Sony, which is a lot more because it deals with it deals with more than Spider-Man. What do you think would be fair? 30-70. See, that's a fair deal. In my eyes, that's a deal, and that's something that Sony apparently has gone back to Disney and said, hey, look, 70-30, we could do that. We take 70, you take 30. I think that's a fair trade. But Disney wanted 50-50 of not just Spider-Man, but of Venom 2, of Morbius. They wanted the entire Spider-Man franchise of characters under the Marvel umbrella, and they wanted 50% of the box office take from those IPs. That's ridiculous. You're asking for 50% of someone's controlled their controlled franchise, their biggest moneymaker. That is Sony's moneymaker there. Disney has the complete MCU. They have Star Wars. They have all these other IPs. And you're just Sony. Sony has Spider-Man. That's what they have. And you're trying to tell Sony, we want 50% not of just Spider-Man, but of Venom, of Morbius, of all of these characters. Exactly, Jose. Oh, hell no. That is not happening. And any exec who would take that deal, they'd be fired the next day. And honestly, if I saw that Sony had accepted that deal, I would lose so much respect for Sony. I would lose so much respect because that is something that studios just aren't going to do. That you're asking for their biggest franchise, 50% stake. And a lot of people are so blind because what they look at is, well, Spider-Man is going to be out of the MCU, and it's Sony's fault because Sony doesn't want to accept Disney's deal, and we could have had Venom in there and all morons. You're moronic. You're looking at one side of the equation because guess what? I completely agree 100% with Sony. Completely agree. Disney already has 100% of the merchandising rights. 100%. Every shirt, every cup, every pencil that has Spider-Man on it, they make 100% of that money. And you're telling me that you want to be so greedy and make such a disrespectful offer to Sony, take 50% of not just Spider-Man, Venom and Morbius and all of these other freaking characters. There's absolutely no way in hell anybody would ever make that agreement. Anybody. And if you think so badly because in your stupid, small pea-brain mind, you're a diehard Disney fans and you think Disney is the most perfect thing ever and everyone needs to bow to a whim to what Disney commands, you are obviously, you don't understand the movie business. You don't understand the way it works. You don't understand that this isn't just about what Disney wants. This is about Sony as a company. This is about Disney as a company. Disney showing how greedy and how disrespectful they are and how they don't frankly give a damn about what anybody else thinks, and they think that they can do whatever they want and they can grab the nuts of whoever they need to in order to get whatever they want. And I'm sorry, but there's no way in hell anybody would ever make that deal. Anybody. And any studio that did would be so dumb and they would lose so much respect from the fans and from anybody who wants to do business with that company. Anybody. Universal is going to make a deal with Sony, and we will see a new Spider-Man universe with the Fantastic Four. Well, Fantastic Four is owned by it's owned by Marvel actually now because it was a Fox property. Universal owns Hulk. I think that's the only. I'm pretty sure that's the only character that they own. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, it has to be because within these IP rights, the one thing that I know from before is that they had to make a movie within a certain time period, or else they would lose the rights. And so that's why you would see, the Fan Four Stick film, because that was literally just a way for Fox to be able to hold on to the rights of the Fantastic Four because they had to make a film, or else their IP rights would expire and it'd revert right back to Marvel. So it would have to be a Spider-Man and Hulk film, but I'm pretty sure because of the pre-existing deal between Universal and Disney, I don't think that they would be able to do that. Fantastic Five. Yeah. Anyway, I've spoken ad nauseum about this, guys. All those people who are going to be blind and boycott Sony and all that stuff, people that are saying, I'm never going to go see a Spider-Man movie in the Sony universe, they're blind. They don't understand. They don't read the article. They read the title and they assume that it is because of Sony wanting to hold on to Spider-Man. Because look, people saying Sony was going to take back Spider-Man, that was never the case. Sony wanted to work with Disney because it was a win-win for both studios. It's a win-win. Disney gets a great character in Spider-Man, an IP that, a beloved character, an IP that is so recognizable into their films that it would help them, financially be successful, because people love Spider-Man. And then the flip side, Sony, after the crap that they went through with Amazing Spider-Man 2 and how bad that movie turned out, Sony was able to make not one, but two great Spider-Man installments that people love. And they were able to make over $1 billion for the first time ever in their illustrious studio career. And the fans got what they wanted, seeing Spider-Man into the MCU. It was a match made in heaven. And that's why, to me, it's disrespectful the way Marvel treated this, or Disney treated this entire situation. And we'll have to wait and see. But there's hope at the end of the tunnel. We'll see where this leads us, and we'll see, what the future holds for Spider-Man. I do think that they will come together and meet, and have an agreement, because this is bad. This is bad face for Disney right now. They definitely need to save their value and save their face, and definitely save their brand, because their brand is being tarnished right now. Because people that actually understand the story and understand why this deal fell apart, it's because of Disney. So anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I'm going to go. I have 40 minutes until I'm going to be watching Avengers Endgame with a couple of my friends. And I want to be able to make sure that I can record some reviews. Anyway, guys, make sure you guys leave a like on this video. That would mean the world to me. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel right down below. I have been absolutely floored by the support that you guys have been giving me on a regular basis, and it means a lot to me that I've kind of been growing a lot more rapidly of late, and that means everything to me. I will be doing more live streams soon. A Saturday Night Live chat will be coming this Saturday night, I promise you. I know that I've failed so many times, where maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this. I don't really want to talk a lot about this because I made this entire video for this reason, for this discussion. But there's a lot of movie news and other things, trailers and stuff that I'd love to talk about. So anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I'll see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.